the first 6 months was running around. Since I didn't have the strength, and product knowledge, I was like, all right, well, maybe I could just appeal on a personal level. My own cases, trying to be in cases with senior reps to learn, because that's the best way, in my personal opinion.
Yep.
Just trying to shadow everybody that I can, be a fly on the wall, learn everything I could.
Welcome back to First Year in Medical Device Sales. I am your host, Jacob McLaughlin, and my friends, I am so excited because with first year in, it's been a lot of me giving tips and me just giving advice and just sharing my journey. But the big thing for me is because we've had so much success with new to medical device sales and we've helped over 2,000 people break in. Now it's fun because we get those members who we've helped break into medical device sales now coming back after they've had success. Today, we're going to be bringing you guys a special guest, which if you guys followed us, you probably saw his face, was Mr. Danee, who he broke in under 3 weeks using our program, and he got 3 job offers. And then he was able to go be an associate. But now we are bringing him on because he's been in for just around 2 years. He's got that experience under his belt, but he not only went to be an associate sales rep and then a full line sales rep in 8 months instead of 2 years. He's also been able to have success. And so I want you guys to just come and just learn someone who didn't have the quote unquote background that he was supposed to coming from the EMT world. And we'll talk about that. And then now coming in, what he has learned, what is going on in medical device sales and just some of the things and tips that he wish he knew, but also you're going to learn a lot about his journey and how he's been successful. So, Danee, welcome to First Year In, not new to medical device sales, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. For those of you who saw the first episode a little while ago, Danee Allman, not a medical device sales background like Jacob said. So happy to be here and share my story.
It's going to be awesome, man. So just real quick, give a quick 30-second summary, because otherwise what we'll do is we'll link your actual new to medical device sales one here and we can have them go watch it. But quick, just what were you doing before you got into medical device sales? Then you got the 3 offers and then we can go from there.
For sure. So to sum up really quickly, I was a personal trainer as well as an EMT in college, just like everybody else. My goal is to be a PA. Always wanted to do healthcare. And then I discovered the world of medical device through a recruiter. The job that I wanted to go to ended up getting frozen, whatever numbers were going on. And I hopped into Jacob's course, as we all know. And that's when I started learning about what to do, how to do it. And then I quickly gained a lot of traction as far as interviews, networking, and then that's where I got those 3 job interviews, worked with Jacob and some other folks in the course, pushed me up to the last round within a week and a half, 2 weeks. And then I was trying to decide where I should go. Jake helped me with that as well. And then that's how I got my first role.
I love it, man. And just so you know, I still remember driving because it was when I was with Innovis, which I'm actually rocking them today. But it's when I was in Innovis and I was doing a conference in Savannah, Georgia. And I remember because I had a truck that I had rented out there, and I'm driving this truck and it's raining and I'm on the call with you as I'm going through intersection. I remember that like nothing. And it was just like you telling me about Depew Synthes, what they're doing, and then what Stryker was doing, and then what Arthrex was doing. And we were going through all this. And I just remember like it was yesterday. It was like such a fun now to see where you're at, because you've also had, since we've talked, share the big news, man.
Yeah, so recently I just became engaged. My girlfriend and I have 3 years. We made it happen, or I made it happen. She's probably been waiting a while. But yeah, we're officially coming together, signing out. So it's been a really fun time planning everything, just, enjoying the new life.
I love it, man. And that's what's important. And what I love being here is just watching you guys have your life go, right, and see where you're at now. Now, let's talk about med device sales. Okay, so you got into med device sales, and just so you guys know, we're not going to go into too much. You guys can do a quick little research, and you'll see where the companies are. We want to always do that for safety reasons. So you went to a med device company, and you were there for about 8 months. And then you did the associate sale world of like, hey, now I got the opportunity. Now, again, everyone says that you can't go to a full line rep role in 2 years, just like they say you can't break in without any experience, right? You were able to do both. Before we jump into how you were able to progress from an associate to a full line rep in under a year, tell us about your first 6 months in the industry. Like what did you take away in your first 6 months? Because I remember the text messages, but like what do you feel like was the biggest like learning curve when you went through that process? Like what are some of the things that you learned through getting into med device sales in your first 6 months?
Yeah, so the first 6 months were crazy, mainly because I was doing a lot of driving. that's this world you're gonna have to drive, right? Even as an EMT driving an ambulance, it was so much more than I anticipated, which wasn't a bad thing. But you got to plan for these things, time,
Yeah.
food, getting from place to place. So that was a huge learning curve. But as far as the job itself, the term drinking from a fire hose, so to speak, even with a little bit of anatomy and physiology background, it's still going to be a lot, which is fine. You don't have to feel like you're drowning. But I felt like being an overachiever, consistently like, oh, I'm going to learn this in 3 weeks. I'm going to be fine. I'm just going to be talking to all the surgeons, you know what I mean? And then when you get in there, I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this again? What is that again? Drill size, plate. And then surgeons are asking you questions. So it was just, it was a lot, but I definitely just had to take my time and be like, all right, I'm going to study more. I'm going to be early. So I would say maybe chaotic, but I didn't, like you say, I was a Labrador with the tail, just wagging, staying happy no matter what happened.
Yep.
I did have a little bit of success, which was cool. It doesn't always happen. It depends on the situation you're going into, but developing relationships, surgeons happen to have backgrounds similar to mine, might be from a city where I'm from or is into the things that I'm in. So I just
Yep.
kind of, since I didn't have the strength, and product knowledge, I was like, all right, well, maybe I could just appeal on a personal level, which will only get you so far, but it'll definitely get you in the door. So the first 6 months was running around the company I was with. I was doing a lot of picking up trays. I didn't have a carrier, so picking up, dropping off, and then my own cases, trying to be in cases with senior reps to learn, because that's the best way, in my personal opinion,
Yep.
just see it, hear the questions that are being asked by the surgeon and by the rep. A little bit of sales, but mainly just trying to shadow everybody that I can, just be a fly on the wall, learn everything I could.
I love it. And the reason I wanted you to go into detail, and I appreciate that, man, is because everybody, like many of the people that are listening to are reps in your same position. And they're like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, but it's to show you guys you're not alone, right? Like
Yep.
even me, like we're all high achievers. You all are type A people. But what you have to understand is we all want it to happen overnight. And we all think that we're going to, by force will, all make it happen in the next month. But what we all realize is like, okay, I knew I was smart. I knew I could hustle, but this might not take a month. It might take 6, 12 months, right? And it's just being able to eat that humble pie of just being like, okay, I need to still work. And then what's going to happen is you guys thought you worked hard beforehand. You're about to work even harder now. You're like, oh my gosh, I thought I was hustling as a personal trainer, as an EMT. Like now I'm really hustling. But one
Yep.
of the things you said that I really want to just touch base on, the number one mistake that I see people do is they try to sell right away
Mm.
compared to let's actually work on the product. Let's work on the relationships. Let's work on like your knowledge. Let's work on everything else besides the selling, because guess what's going to happen after you learn all of that stuff? The selling, right?
Yep.
And like what you did, and this is a conversation I actually just had with one of our reps, was stop focusing on your weaknesses and focus on your strengths. We're all going to have weaknesses and strengths, but what is the strength you bring to the table right now? Right? For you, it was being able to build relationships. And even though it wasn't to like the strong, like really deep level, it got you to where you were able to go. Now, one question I want to ask, because I remember my time, how long did it take before you felt comfortable in a surgery to where you didn't have that anxious feeling in your stomach, to where you didn't feel like, oh, you're sweating or not knowing how things are going to go, or you have your phone on standby to get ready to call somebody? Like, how long did that take?
To be completely transparent, still have cases like that
Come on.
today where I'm like,
Come on.
on standby. I might send you a picture or something, just in case. But for
Yep.
the run of the mill stuff, I would say like a year and a half. Just
Yep.
and it's not that all of it was super complex, but there's just the confidence that you from having reps and sets. That's what I learned. I learned that from a firefighter friend of mine. Just reps and sets. You do it over and over and over again, and then eventually you get comfortable. There's going to be something new to learn. You never know it all. But I would say a year and a half, I had done most of the cases that we're going to do consistently. And I was starting to see different things, that you don't see on the first 2 or 3 times. So after those, getting into some jams where you got to get yourself out, or
Yep.
like you said, call your senior and be like, hey, how do I do X, Y, and Z? And
Yeah.
surgeon's just sitting there waiting on you to get an answer.
Yeah.
And you get into those a couple times, and then you come to expect some things. And even when you run into things you don't expect, you've seen other situations. So definitely a year and a half mark, and then I'm feeling all right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and just so you guys know, with what Danee's doing, he has way more sets and trays and things to understand and products than when I was at Medtronic selling. the GYN world. We didn't have as much. All right. And so for me, I also in 6 months, I was it. I was the only person doing all of it in all of Arizona, New Mexico. So the amount of cases I got in and all the stuff, it's what because I was the full line rep. It's what Danee is talking about. I was like, hey, you guys got to see it. But this is my encouragement to everyone. Again, you guys all come in and we all come in, not just you guys. We all come in and we think that we're gonna like go and crush in all the stuff and all. Then it's like, oh my gosh, I should be an expert by now. But what Danae just said is like, hey, for this is why I tell people to close your eyes for the first 6 to 12 months is like, just hustle, right? Get in as many cases. Like even right now, we have an opportunity with one of our people who we just got them a job. They're going to go hustle. But then with the division that they're in, that they can go take on extra cases and like cover call for people. And they only make some money on the side, but I'm just like, hey, go be in the first 6 to 12 months. Let's not talk about the work-life balance. Let's be in every case because the more you're in, the more you're going to see, the more stuff you're going to have. That's why for me, everyone looked at our stuff and they're like, how do you know this? It's like, because I've done more volume in 6 months than most people done in 2 years. I was in everything. I was staying at the hospital till 7 p.m. at night, right? Like we're just all the time. We were starting at 6 a.m. Like I was just trying to get as much experience in a short amount of time. That's why I could talk the way I talked and be able to accomplish what I accomplished in a short amount of time. Because what we just talked about is the timeline. All I did was I compressed it. I'm just compressing the timeline. So that's my encouragement to everyone out there is what can you do to compress the timeline, right? And then what happens from that is every single time you're going to have something new comes out up. Even Danee has something new come up. Like even today, we were supposed to do this earlier and he got a call. Be like, where are you at? We got a surgery. And then he shows up there and they're like, we don't need you for this surgery. And he's like, okay. That's the world, but it's always taking notes. It's always, are you learning throughout that stuff? Like for me, it's just like my notepad was full with hundreds of notes of me just doing it, or I just added it to a sheet. So again, if I went through that experience, I already had handled it. And then again, you go through it. And so I think that's a great thing to just put out there is like, guys, it's okay to keep learning at 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. You're going to keep learning. What happens though is you just feel better because you don't have as much unknowns. You've seen a lot of stuff, right? So it makes life easier. In those first 8 months, but like you being that associate sales rep, what do you think was the real value of that? Like, what do you feel like really brought to your tool set? Like I always say, you guys are collecting tools to your tool set. What are some of like the big things you learned in that first 6 months as being that associate, or just some tips that helped you in that first 6 months?
Yeah. So for me, my first 6 to 8 months was a little bit of a trial by fire situation where you learn on the fly a lot of the time. So I would say for me, taking the time to there's a lot of trades. Saying for me individually, for me taking the trades home because I'm going to be delivering them anyway. Take them home and I go through each level of different things because we get to, for one, get my hands on it, get a feel for it, how it works. So when I'm talking to the tech, for example, to the surgeon, it helps me give instruction better because I know how this feels. I know how this slides, or, I can use better verbiage. So for one, getting my hands on the trades, bringing them home, that was huge, which came because most associates are going to be involved in trade deliveries or whatever the case may be. You're going to be driving stuff around. And then the company I was with had a really good focus on training. So I took advantage of that. There's a ton of online modules that you can go on, but also in conjunction with those, I would get the models and try to replicate the surgeries. Not a surgery by any means, but if I can run through the steps, get my hands on it, I'm very much a hands-on learner. That
Mm-hmm.
was the best thing for me. And when it comes to selling, I did a lot of observing, just kind of standing in the back, watching the surgeon talk to the senior rep. I would learn that sometimes, all the time, it's better to more so ask questions and make statements. So I heard a lot of like, instead of this is the best because of this, and it's got this, and it's got that, and it's got this, what they call a word vomit or a diarrhea of the mouth.
Yep.
I just learned like if you ask them, sometimes they'll just, yeah, bring it in because they don't really care or they just want to see what it is. They don't want to hear you talk about it. They want to see it. And other times they have very specific needs that they want to be met. And if you just ask a question, it'll get you right where you need to go. So that was probably, as far as selling goes, the biggest thing, asking questions. And then as far as product knowledge, just getting to get my hands on it and practice every day.
There you are, my friends. There's your master class to selling. We just saved you a bunch of money on going on. What's selling, right? Like, so yeah, Danee's 100% on. Is like, I was that new rep. You go to training, you learn all the stuff, and then guess what? You just go regurgitate it, and you're like, blah, 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 blah. And then they don't
Yeah.
care, and you leave, and you're like, I talked 90% of the time, and you'll watch these doctors as I've been now the rep, and I saw the reps and the managers and being all this stuff. The doctors and surgeons will actually sit back and actually either have a mad look on their face or a smile on their face during like those lunches because they're like,
Hmm.
this person's new. They don't know to shut up that I'm actually the decision maker or they should ask me questions,
Yep.
right? Compared to the new reps, like, blah, 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 this is what we do, blah, 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 blah. Compared to, like you just said, what most people don't understand is you have to understand who you're talking to. Is that person caring about time? Is that person caring about the relationship? Is that person caring about the product? Is that person wanting to just see how it is? Does that person have a specific problem that they're going through? And if you're just always telling them, what good does that do? Because also, if you just tell them, they don't care. But if they tell you and then you're able to fit that need, now you actually have something here. And
Yeah.
so I think that's a great piece of advice. Now, here's the bigger question. You were able to go to a full line rep in under a year. But what I want to put out there for everyone, it was not with the same company.
Right.
And so I want to share this is because many times I get on calls with people who are like, I have to stay here. They said 2 years. And I'm like, oh, you don't ever have to stay there for 2 years.
Right.
The whole thing is if you are good enough and you know what to do, you don't have to stay places. And again, it's playing the market, playing what's out there. Because for you, things happen pretty good for you because they were chasing you and you're like, hey, these are the opportunities, right? What even got you into the mindset at 8 months that you could go for a full line rep role compared to, everybody I talked to, they're like being associates and they're like, oh, I don't want to. Like, what had you believe that you're like, hey, I'll go look at this full line rep role?
So first, I will be honest. It was you in your transition. I was like, all right, you know what I mean? Obviously, you had been in your role for longer than 8 months, like 2 years or so.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was listening. I always listen to your videos and stuff like that, even after. So I was listening and then kind of thought about it. Not that I was, looking at a specific role or anything like, oh, I need to be here, but it was just like, it could be more. I'm all about development. I want to be better. I want to contribute to the team. And so I felt like, okay, maybe I can't reach those in the time frame that I want to, or I'm not getting the resources, help, whatever you want to call it, to get there. Okay, maybe I can find it somewhere else. So I just started networking, not intentionally, right? But I knew that, like you said, I had the volume. So I was definitely in as many cases as possible. I was learning at a fast rate. I had a little bit of success in specific accounts. So other companies did take notice to that because, I mean, if the business is coming to me, it's going away from them. Through those networking opportunities, managers from cross divisions were having conversations. And like you said, they actually approached me just from, kind of seeing me so often in certain accounts. And like I said, hurting their business, their pockets a little bit. But I just knew how hard that I was working. And I'm like, okay, if I'm doing all of these things, if I'm delivering all these trays, I'm covering these cases, I'm working the trauma call on the weekend, canceling stuff that I have to go do this or do that, or whatever the case may be. I have my girlfriend riding with me sometimes, go pick up trays 2 hours away, bring them back, deliver them first thing in the morning. I'm sleeping for an hour, waking up, going to cover a case on a Saturday. Like I'm doing all this crazy stuff, you know what I mean? So I know that I have the work ethic. I'm seeing the success, like it's paying off to a degree, but I know that if I have a real opportunity, then all this same work that I'm doing is just going to shine. So, like I said, I was looking for different positions here and there, but then one of the roles that I applied for, that manager reached out, same company. So he reaches out to his buddy, which is another manager, and that manager reaches out to me. And then that's how I got my current role now. Like I said, we were technically not rivals, but competition. So they kind of saw some of the things that I was doing. So I didn't have to say it all. It was pretty apparent. So
Yeah.
that was something that helped a lot.
Well, just so you know, I'm smiling, man, because this is what I want everybody to hear. One, the relationships that you had built throughout the process of getting in and doing all the stuff because you left things on good terms. You didn't burn a boat. Look, it helped you out in the future. Number two, then you just put your head down and worked and hustled. And guess who took notice? Other people, but not only other people, people that you were beating because you were doing the work to make it happen. And then guess who approached you? They did. And so this is the thing I tell all of our new reps. When you guys are just hustling, especially you're not the only person. We've had multiple people get that promotion or they got headhunted from another company in the first year and went from associates to full line reps in under a year because you guys are absolute crushing. And they're like, dang, if we had that same person on our side and we have a better product, like, dang, look what happens. And so this is what I want you guys to hear. If you're in medical device sales and you're doing this, watch what can happen and change your life if you're actually just doing your work and you're good. But what most people don't do, and everyone who comes to us after they see us get people hired now at over six figures, and then they're like, well, I've been in for 3 years and I don't make six figures. I'm like, you're probably not doing what you need to do to make six figures. And then nobody else sees you and they don't see your value because you're not doing what needs to be done to make six figures. And that's why you now make six figures, right? Because it's like, oh, they saw and they're like, oh, this guy, Danee, he's hustling. He's doing it. First off, I want to say how rare Danee is. And this is what we talk about in our program. Again, our average person, we now get hired at six figures and all the fun stuff. But I share that because I always tell our team it's not normal, but it's doable. It's the same thing here. Going from associate to a full line rep in under a year, it's not common. It's not normal, but it happens. And it's only rare or doesn't happen to the people that it doesn't happen to. But the people that are putting in the work, like it's what we've always said, eagles don't fly with pigeons, right? Do your thing. And so for you, man, you go to that full line rep in under a year. What was that like? What was it like going from that associate sales rep role to that full line sales rep role with a different company?
The inside, it was amazing. As far as the role, I'll say one thing for sure. The team that I joined, they worked with like no other, and their goal fit with my goal. Like they aligned me in position to be, for one, as useful as I can to the team, but to be successful. I let them know early on, coming in here to work, you know what I mean? Like anywhere I can fit in, let me know this isn't where I normally work at, my territory. So point me in the right direction, at least until I get my bearings, and I'll just fly at it, 100 miles an hour. So that's what I did still, because, learning, meeting new surgeons, I would try to get in cases when I could with my new teammates. I think I shocked them a little bit with my initiative. I'm setting up lunches and I'm setting up meetings with doctors I'm meeting for the first or second time. Just like I said, that relationship building, but also their trust in me, because that's the biggest thing. They don't want somebody in the room that they don't trust. So it's a bigger company or a more busy company. I thought it was going to be 10 times the amount of work. And it's not easy by any means. There's still a lot of work to do. It's just a job. But compared to what I was doing, I felt like I was just focused on my strengths. Like you said earlier, I can relationship build. I can learn pretty quick, and I'm a hard worker. So like, okay, he's good at those things. And they just let me run after it. It's been great. The docs, guys and gals that I work with, we have a great relationship. Like it's just been a complete 180. Obviously still doing great on the business side, but taking everything that I learned from that first role, grinding it out, sweating it out, and bringing it over here with more resources, more support. Like we were the number one team in the nation last year. So success has been there for sure. Yeah.
Let me just ask you this. How good does it feel to take all that hard work and now make the money that you deserve that's over six figures?
Oh, like I just got done telling you, we're engaged. We moved in, we got the house. Like it's great to go work hard and then come home and feel like, all right, I earned my keep for today. I get to relax. I get to enjoy my castle. Like it's unbeatable. It's all you could ever ask for.
Yeah. And I just asked that because I want everyone else who's listening to hear that. It's doable. Because let me just say, when Danee and I first met, he wasn't doing over six figures as the EMT and the personal trainer, but I've watched and I got to watch him grow, and I've watched him just mature and just become the man he is, and now engaged and doing great on the number one team at a massive med device company. He's growing. It's just amazing. I want you guys to just see that, because I want you all to know who's watching it. It's possible for you too. Like, don't let other people say it's not. So I just want to put that out there. This is what I watch a lot of people do, is they always think that they're making a waste, or they wasted time or wasted years when they don't do what they were going to do, right? Like the EMT helped you go be in med device sales and personal training, all this stuff, right? And I always tell people, you're adding tools to the tool set. You already said, hey, I already had this knowledge. I already had this stuff. Where do you feel like the biggest tools that you had? Like what was the biggest transition going from the associate sales rep to the full line sales rep, right? Because what many people do as the associate, they're like, I can't do this. What do I do? And all this stuff. And what they realize is that, man, you were already doing probably 90% of it. You just needed to add a couple stuff. And now you just have a quote unquote, what everyone has, a scary quota, but it's not that scary if you just do your right things. So for you, man, what was like that big, like, what was the tools that you added to your tool set being an associate that then helped you be a full line rep and have success?
organization. I had some level of organization being a personal trainer EMT, like, time matters and trying to be on a schedule because you got other people coming in or things of that nature. Or, an emergency situation, time really matters. But that was huge just because it's a little bit different. No one's going to check in and make sure you get your assignment or turn this in and turn that in. It's just going to be an angry OR manager. That's like, hey, where's my sales order or whatever the case may be. So that came just because, like I said, I was running around doing a lot of different things. I was in a lot of cases. So I had to manage, like, okay, where's this trade? Where's that trade? Needs to be done here, picked up over there, and transferred, and just, inventory management. But then the ability to have a conversation with anybody, which I had a little bit from EMT and personal trainer. You have to talk, right? A lot of the surgeons that I work with have a background that I'm not familiar with as far as, like, upbringing, things like that. Just things that I didn't do or I'm not familiar with. Some of them do, some of them don't, which is okay.
Yep.
But being an associate, getting exposed to a lot of those different things, knowing how different conversations work, how to talk to them on a personal level, how to talk to them on a professional level, what kind of things they appreciate and care about, that was huge. So I could come over, whereas I was kind of stumbling in the associate position. Like, how do I initiate this conversation? What do I say? I don't want to just bring this up and sound salesy. When I came over to the full line rep role, I could just walk into an OR, command the room, hey, how's it going? And just open up a conversation, whether it's leisure or business, and, let it run smoothly, which they appreciate a lot.
What a superpower. And that's why I'm asking you that, because I want you guys all to hear that, is because, again, that is a superpower. Being able to, like you said, like, people don't understand, is like when you don't grow up with a lot of money and then you're around a lot of surgeons who, like, went to Harvard or you went to, like, the Ivy League schools and they always had money.
Yep.
That's a different conversation, right? And it's like you have to relate. But if you show up there and they're talking to you and you're like making faces and all this stuff, it's not going to go over well for you. You have to, like, step in, be professional, and be like, oh yeah, right. Like, I'll never forget. You're talking to the scrub tech who's not making 60K. You're talking to the nurse who's not making 80K. You're talking to the PA who makes 130, and then you're talking to the surgeon who might be making 500 to $1 million plus.
Yep.
Right? And you have to know how to talk in every single one of those situations. And you have to talk about family, and you have to talk about all the different stuff. And you got to see where the conversation goes, right? And then the best part is, humans love humans. People buy from people. Stop being the sales rep always trying to sell. Like, if they like Danee and they know Danee's reliable and they know Danee will show up and they know all the stuff, they're also going to be impressed when he knows all of his products, he knows all the stuff. And that's what I always laugh about, is everyone's like, relationship selling's dead. No, it's not. It's not. Because if you can have the person like you and trust you and do all the stuff there, and then you're an absolute savage when it comes to the sales world of just knowing your products, knowing your competition, knowing how you're better, knowing how you can fit the need, and knowing all that stuff, it only just compounds onto it each other. Right. And that's what you're doing right now, man, is like you were able to do it. But I just want to share that because I'll just never forget being in an OR room once talking about somebody who's like barely able to buy a car. And then the next thing that's happening is the surgeon is telling me about the brand new Porsche that they just bought. Right.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to have those conversations and not get into too many weeds and all this stuff. But again, they trust you on a personal level, but you need to also keep that level where the scrub tech's going to like you after that conversation and they don't think Danee's the worst person ever, right? Like, you have to be able to do that. And then again, going back into, can you just have a conversation? And what I always tell people is, can you be someone they want to go buy a beer with, but can you also be the absolute stud that is the best rep in the room? Because most people can only do, like, there's some people who are extremely smart, but they're like, I don't want to hang out with you after work. And then there's other people who, I can hang out with you after work, but you don't know crap about your product. Right. And so if it's like, both of them, and the doctor's like, man, I would hang out with you outside of work. Then when they're with you at work, they feel like they're not even having to work. And then you know your products and you just make their life easier, provide that value. There it goes, man. And so I've watched you get really good with just even how we communicate, and it's been fun to watch how you're going. So I know that's what you're doing. And like you said, you are able to go command a room and you can go make sure everyone feels comfortable, but you also know when to, like, step back and, hey, it's the surgeon's time and all that stuff, which is such a big power. It's just awesome to see you continue to have success. And so I guess my one question that I always like to ask is, like, you've done the breaking into medical device sales. You've been in medical device sales. Like, why I made this piece is I want to help people that are getting in and maybe who haven't had support or haven't had any help. Like, like what's your advice? What's your encouragement to people that are brand new in the industry in the first year, right? Like you've lived it and you've done what most people never done, where in under a year you went to a full line rep role and now you're on the number one team and all fun stuff and you've lived it. What's your advice to the people who are like, Danee, man, I just got in, like I don't even know what I'm doing, like all the stuff we're drinking from the fire hose. Like what's that advice? And maybe someone's listening to this is made for reps that are in the industry, but we get a lot of people who listen to this who still want to get in the industry, right? But like once you are a rep, once you are living you in the scrubs and you're running to the hospital and you're running back and doing all this stuff, like what's your advice to these people that are now in the industry and being like, oh my gosh, what can I be doing to be a better rep so I can go make six figures, so I can be one of the people that I look up to?
First and foremost, I'll say it's not going to be easy. There's no way to make it easy. It's going to take work. But if you work in the right direction, that'll get you where you want to go. So I would say that first year, something that we've said a bunch of times, but it really is important to stress is just putting your head down and working. It's going to be things you love to do and enjoy to see. There's going to be things you don't want to do that the senior rep just makes you do because they don't want to do it either. But that's a part of the learning curve that, believe it or not, is going to help you a lot. So I would say and try to learn something new each day, whether that's someone teaching you or you just going and looking up an optic and learning it on your own. All things come to an end at some point. So if you're going through a tough week and you're like, man, I got trouble for this because I forgot, surgeon kicked me out of the room and everything just seems to be compounding and going worse, just know at some point that stuff's going to end, especially if you keep working. And then you'll see the upside of all the mistakes you made, because mistakes are really just an opportunity to learn. But even on the other end, when you're on a high, I did this great thing and I got praised by the surgeon or he told my rep how good of a job that I did. Like live in that moment, be happy about it for sure, but don't ride that wave for the next 3 weeks thinking because you did something good that you don't have to do anything else. And then you find yourself in the doghouse or behind on your knowledge or whatever the case may be. So there's a balance between the two, but definitely just grind it out, learn as much as you can. Stuff goes wrong, stuff isn't feeling the best, that's fine. You'll get through it. When stuff's going good, that's fine. Go do it again.
Man, I love that. And I just want to just share like there's a quote by Tom Hanks and he went really famous when he said, "This too shall pass."
Yep.
You're going through a hard time, this too shall pass. You're going through a great time, this too shall pass, right? It's just
Yes,
take it every day, just take the seasons. Now, I'm going to ask you a couple quick questions. You don't need to go into too many crazy details. They are going to require a little bit of details, but real quick, I think this might be a little fun is what's the worst case out of 2 years that you've been into? What was that experience like?
oh, okay. So I won't go into too crazy detail like you said, but enough to kind of give you guys a picture for how rough it was, right? And it's not a crazy case in the sense of like it's the most complex I've ever been in. But as you'll find, there's some surgeons who are very lighthearted, kind of caring, joking, some not so much. They don't even seem like they want to be there sometimes. So the story about a guy, he's a surgeon. He's known for not being happy in the OR. At the scrub sink, he's a puppy dog. He's always laughing, talking sports, and as soon as he's in the case, good or bad, his attitude switches. Which is, you're gonna run into those kind of guys when they're focused. They're not worried about making anybody feel happy. So I'm 6 months in, I want to say, maybe 4 to 6 months in. And it's my first time doing this kind of case. I just got dropped in, like I say, trial by fire. So I did not know that I did not have all of the necessary tools for this case to go smoothly. I had the implants and trays and everything set up, but it's hard to explain without. But essentially, you're going to pass some suture through a bone. So in order to do so, there's a specific item called a suture passer. A lot of companies make them. They're big, they're small, but we make one. And it's the only one that he likes to use for this procedure, which I was not aware of until he asked for it. And so I'm sitting there like, I don't think we have that. It's like, yes, you do, because obviously he's been doing this for 15 years. So he knows that it exists more than I do. But I don't have it with me. And so like I'm texting my senior rep on the side, and he gets to a point in the case where he's trying to do without it, because that happens a lot of times. You can kind of MacGyver something and push your way through it. But he's obviously upset, and he's saying some things that aren't so nice. Oh, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. I got him in my room, like all these young, because I'm a younger guy in the vet world. These young guys don't know anything. They just want to be on their phone, blah, 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 blah. So I'm sitting there. I just got to eat it because I don't have the thing he needs, of course, so I can't make it better. And a couple of rooms over, I've got a coworker who's working. He's in a larger case. They're in, and I'm texting him. He's not responding. So I reach out to the other guy, and he's like, "Go grab him out of that OR and bring him in there. I don't care what they're doing." So now there's two reps in the case, and basically we told him like, "Hey, we don't have it," and he makes the other rep get in his car, drive over to our warehouse, and grab the thing in the middle of the surgery. While we're waiting, words with me that were not so nice through a couple instruments. But we got the suture passer and everything went well in the end. But in the case, didn't feel too great because it's just like caught my pants down. There's nothing much I could have really done.
Yep.
But glad I had my other rep there to go and help me out.
Well, I just asked that because I want you guys to know I always say sunshine and rainbows aren't always every day in med device sales. And you guys hear me say, hey, a doctor, why we're so intense in our program is like because doctors aren't going to take it easy on you.
Oh
Exhibit
man.
A, right? And so we just try to get you guys prepped for that. Like that's the big thing. So I love that. Now here's the better part. Tell me about the best case. Again, you don't have to go into crazy details, but what's the best case you've ever had? Doctor hug you, someone like tell you you're amazing. Like what's that looked like?
Yeah, real quick, I'll just say with that guy. When I did more cases with him, by the way, we developed a great relationship. He would buy me sodas and things like that. So that turned out good eventually.
Yeah.
But the best case, one reason it's the best because it was like I sold it on my own. I was growing up, developing as a rep. And it's like instead of someone selling something and letting me cover it, I talked to the doc. I set up the dinner, the lunch, or whatever, and then they agreed to use the product, and he did it. Uh, but the best one, but there's something called a TTC fusion. So it's really just the fusing of your ankle joint. But there's a bunch of different ways you can do it. But my first one I did, I talked to the surgeon. He kind of called me up and he's like, "Hey, I got one of these in like 3 days." And I'm like, "Okay, well, usually, it takes a little bit more time. Get out a cadaver, run through all the steps, show him the tray, make sure he feels comfortable, and then look at x-rays and plan everything out." But we didn't have the opportunity this time. I went to his office, a coworker of mine helped me out as far as like getting stuff over there because it was so last minute. But I went to his office, we ran through the trays, and then he was, semi-confident. But in the case itself, I'd ran through everything the night before. I was ready to go. This is my first time doing it solo. 30 minutes early, I got stuff open, set up, ready to go in order for him. And everything was going well. He goes to put the implant in. Again, look up TTC now. And it rotated a little bit. So in certain circumstances, you're like, oh my gosh, this could be bad. But this is where I say those reps and sets, having seen it before, been in cases with other senior reps, or just, looking at videos. I'm like, oh, no problem. All we'll do, should back that out. We're going to reset up our jig, throw it back in. And the case went smooth. He even threw me, sometimes surgeons will open things to help their rep out. So we'll say that. But but yeah, it was a great case. We were able to talk after. There were two surgeons in the room, and he still uses to this day for new stuff. He'll call, he'll ask, and I mean that's just been something that I felt like was great for me because you always hear about like, oh, you need to know because if the surgeon asks you, you want to be ready to go, or you want to make sure they trust you. So for one, knowing they have to trust to call me for the case when there's other companies or even senior reps that I have that he could have reached out to, but he called me specifically. He wanted me there for the case, trusted me to go through everything with him. And then in the case, when something didn't go as planned, he was able to look to me. I was able to give him the response. He just, backed up a couple steps, went forward, and everything turned out perfect. So, I mean, it's not, he didn't jump and give me a hug while he was sterile. But for me, that was a great win.
Why it's so important though is like because of all your hard work, it finally paid off. And then when it was complex, you actually made it look easy. And he was so happy with you. You got all of his trust that day.
For
That's
sure.
that's what happened. So that's super special. Now I'm going to end this with the best question that I can. What is the best part or the most rewarding part of med device sales? Now you've been able to live it. First off, are you happy in what you're currently doing? And number two, if so, hopefully, what's the best part of it?
Never would have thought working with feet would be the thing that I do. But I'm in a foot and ankle division of my company. So, I mean, I do love it. I was a guy that didn't really care about work-life balance, but it's something that's just built into the job because a lot of these surgeons don't operate in odd hours or holidays. So I love that. That's not the best part. I mean, the best part is I don't get to see and meet the patients, but when I talk to the surgeons about how they're doing, that's my number one thing. It's like, oh, how's that patient that we worked on 2 weeks ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago? I love asking that. And they love when you do too. But some cases are minor and some are major. So, like I was saying about that TTC fusion, there's some patients who their ability to walk is hindered. You know, they're
Yep.
rolling in a chair, or they
Yep.
can't go play with their kids, or they can't hike like they used to anymore. And
Yeah.
some of these surgeries literally give them the ability to go have their life back. And so when I
Come on.
hear they come in like, oh, he or she came in, they're wearing regular shoes and they're smiling, they're happy, there's no pain. That's really cool to me because they always say, okay, imagine if you was your mom, your dad, your
Yeah.
sister on that table, and it's like someone just got their life back, their happiness back. That's been super awesome to see.
I love it, man. And that's the best part is because of you, because of your help and what you're doing and what you're selling and all the things. That's why they're able to have their life back. And so, Danae, I just want you to know, man, it's been amazing to watch your journey. And this is just the beginning, right? But it's been amazing to watch you break in under 3 weeks and then watch you go from be a associate rep to a full line rep in under 8 months. And then from there, go work at a top med device company and then be on the number one team. And you're just getting started, brother. You're not even 3 years in.
Started.
Let's get going, baby. So and now you're engaged and the world is going. And so I just want to say I'm proud of you. I just want to say congratulations on your success. Like I said on the first one, I knew you were going to have success. Crazy how you're now having
Thank you.
success. And it's only going to keep going. And so I just want to say thank you for taking time. I know you're busy. Thank you for running to the hospital, coming back, and now making time for it. But I just want to say thank you. Thank you for spending your time, spending the knowledge, and wish you nothing but the best and all the success as we're going to still stay in touch. And I'm going to watch you even crush it even more.
Heck yeah, thank you. I appreciate all the wishes. You know, I'll always text you when I get these little wins. So glad to be back on. Hopefully, I gave a little bit of information somebody could take it and run with it.
It's going to be amazing, guys. And I just want to say if you guys enjoyed this and you think it could be helpful to someone, press that like and subscribe button and share it to someone. And if you guys know of anyone interested in breaking into medical device sales, as of right now, our average person does get broken into the industry at over $105,000 in about 2 months. And so, again, just living proof of Mr. Danee getting in and
So,
now top performer and crushing it. And so, life don't stink. And so, just want you guys to know if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us or you can click the link below. But I just want you guys to know I want you to have all the success and I hope you guys keep crushing it. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.